This video is an overview of the main functionality provided by LawPracticeZA. LawPractice operates from a browser, so all you have to do is, having logged onto the website, you will type in your username and password and sign in. And LawPractice is loaded. For purposes of this presentation, I'm going to go full screen, make it cleaner. So the first thing, we're looking at it from a fee earner perspective, and what we're seeing here is, first of all, my matters diarized, what is due, what's overdue, what's due in the future, hasn't come up yet. You can also see any fees I've recorded against it'll be the current month, against last month, against the target. Obviously the current month grows as the month grows, so we're at the end of the month at the moment. We also have certain boxes of information here we'll get back to now, and some help. On the left will be the menu items, and the system can be set up either for a fee earner, a bookkeeper, or both. And also we give administrative rights to some people, to selected people. So if we get back here, the first thing I want to look at is, whenever on the system, fees have been posted, obviously, and accounts opened, etc. So whatever fees are captured are always captured as unbilled, and the same for pending disbursements, equivalent to work in progress. So when I click on that button, I get a list of all my matters that have got fees that haven't yet been billed. It also gives me the option to select one or more, or all, and send pro formas automatically or send invoices. Pro forma is like an invoice, it doesn't update, so it's an information invoice, whereas an invoice obviously is an accounting entry. So if I go, for instance, let's say what I can also do is just click on the matter, and I can see I've got a lot of stuff entered here. And I get into the matter, and for instance, those transactions, if I scroll down, by default I'll see all unbilled, and it'll have all those items that I saw. Speaking of pro forma, if I click on pro forma, the system will generate a pro forma for me that looks like an invoice, and depending on the system you're using, it could just jump straight up to reflect the pro forma. So for instance, that's what your invoice would look like. If you registered for VAT, it will reflect VAT, obviously, otherwise it won't. There won't be a VAT column, no reference to VAT. If you have VAT, it's summarized at the bottom. You can have your banking details entered on the invoice, etc., and obviously your own logo and your company details. While we're here, if you look at transactions, you'll see you've got unbilled fees, disbursements, or all unbilled. That's what we looked at. So when you generate a pro forma or invoice, you can select certain. You can either select all off and just say I only want those two, or you can select everything. I can also see my accounting balance is 12,000. My trust is 20,000 in credit. Must always be credit. And my section 78, there's nothing there. So if I click on that, I get all my accounting entries. And if I click on one of these highlighted references, it'll take me to that entry. So for instance, I could go to, if I click on invoice, it'll take me to that particular invoice. I can look at the invoice. I can also, there's a whole lot of things I can do here. I can generate an invoice that I can then save and email again, but obviously the system's got facility to automatically email to the email address set on the client or matter under accounts email. If I hadn't, this has already been sent. If I hadn't, I could send it from here. I can copy to unbilled. So typically what would happen is, if the invoice was an error, you can't make it disappear as an accounting entry, but you can reverse, where the system will automatically generate a credit note, and then you can if you need to convert all the entries to unbilled because they might have been posted to the wrong account, for instance. Okay, so if I'm just going to scroll back to full screen again. So I'm back where I was here, and just starting at the top here, you'll have client and matter information and your diarising. Importantly, the diarising, you can have multiple diary entries for the same item, and you can diarise different people. Example, if you're going to court on Friday and you diarise for Friday for 10 o'clock, but you could also diarise for Fred, for instance, to as we say here, prepare report for companion, or could collate court documents. So to update matters, once you're on the matter, the briefcase is for matters, that's for client, and the system works on the basis that for every matter there has to be a client, and a client can have one or more matters. So if I go back to my dashboard, the second thing we can look at is, if I click on due, I will get a list of all matters that have been diarised for me for today. So it keeps track, nothing gets forgotten, very easy to diarise, and I can see, and of course I can jump straight to a matter. The other thing I can do is, if I go back to my dashboard, or I wouldn't have to go back, I could search for any matter at any time. So I can, for instance, say I want, I just know it's something to do with construction. As you start typing, it'll find anything anywhere in the client name or matter description. So if that's the one I wanted, I would click on that, and it would open up that matter where I could do everything. So here's where you typically capture the fees, and what should be mentioned here is that when I open the matter, I can set the matter to say it's time-based and what scale I want to. I want my standard hourly rate or my high hourly rate for this particular matter. Or I could say it's a matter that normally has unitary fees. Typically, the courts would have that. So for instance, this is a court matter. So if I select, I get the court tariffs here. The other thing that's important is sometimes there can be a lot of tariffs. You can add your own, you can amend, you can edit. We just supply the system with some basic tariffs, including high and major court. But I can type, and it'll filter out all the, amongst all the activities or posting codes for this particular matter. It'll filter out anything with that word in it anywhere. So for instance, here I've got making copies. This would be a court tariff, and this would be my attorney-owned clients, which would come with every set of codes. So if I clicked on this one, for instance, it'll update it there. If I save that, it's now part of the entry. But because it's unbilled work in progress, I can at any time edit this as well. So I could, for instance, say, I don't want that be, or I could reduce the whole thing completely. I could just say, look, get rid of all of this, I don't need that. Right, if I go back to the dashboard, another thing that can be quite useful is the calendar. Now I just want to mention on the menu, some of these things do have a lot of entries, especially on the bookkeeping side. So for instance, to give an example, hidden away amongst the posting or the reports would be audit trail. So if I can use the filter to quickly find anything I'm looking for, so it applies throughout. But what I want to just have a look at now on the fee earner side is the calendar. So the calendar will show you the current month, and this is where you can very quickly and easily move things around. So I'm moving from the first to the second, and when I rest on it, you'll see it gives me some the note on the calendar. So when you create a diary entry, also put a note. So if I'm making a diary entry for Fred, I tell Fred what I expect on that day, and that the diary note would pop up, or that matter would pop up for Fred on the day with the note of what needs to be done. But I would also see the entry in my own calendar if I was the one who issued the instruction. You can also click to say the entry is complete, or can click again to say it's not complete. I still need to deal with it. So back to the dashboard. That covers a lot of what the fee earner does. Obviously one needs to explore, there'll be more specific videos on specific functions like posting fees and so on. And obviously on the bookkeeper side there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, but just quickly to show you some of the stuff available. It is specifically developed for law firms, so you will see things like Section 782 investments, withdrawals and interest and so on. On the master file maintenance, this is where you can, for instance, create your own posting codes, modify posting codes. And posting codes for unitary fees can have amounts in them. Admin, once again, when the system's set up, if somebody is only got fee earner, they won't see bookkeeper or admin. If somebody is a fee earner and bookkeeper but not admin, they won't have the opportunity to do any of these changes. So please have a look at the other videos for more detail on specifics, which will deal with things like the bookkeeping functions as well as fee earners, specific functions like posting fees, etc.